Hello! Today we'll be looking at what's in this exciting box from Emax, but just before we get into that, a quick reminder, please like or dislike this video if you didn't like it, comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find that little bell icon, click on it, it'll tell you when I'm uploading videos. So, what's in here? And I have to say, I'm always excited to get things from Emax. Haven't had that many Emax products, but they've always been set up really nicely out of the box, like nothing to do. And this is not a particularly new product, but I'm always keen to get my hands on anything that's supposed to be good. This is the Emax TinyHawk II FreeStyle. A little toothpick style quad from Emax, and I'll get it straight out. It comes in this nice little pouch, looks like that, and the other things you get in the box are a pair of these 450 mAh 1S batteries. The idea is to use both of these in series to produce a 2S battery. There is a little USB battery charger, a few little spare parts, screws, nuts, plasticky things, a standoff or two, some 2.5-inch Avon props, some stickers, and this little card about support. There's no manual in there, but if you go to their support site, you'll find a sort of full PDF menu you can look at and go through it. So normally all of these come with some sort of Crazy Bee F4 board. Emax seems to be using its own board. It's a bit of a different shape. It's kind of stretched out where the ESC's on the ends and the F4's in the middle. It runs the Matex 411 firmware, and it's a 4-in-1 5-amp ESC, so not huge ESCs by any means. The Runcan Nano 2 up the front. Again, the Nano 3's out. If you like, it's a new review of a slightly older product. And its VTX can go from 0, 25, 100, 200 milliwatts. Get 1103 7000 kV motors. As said, there's the battery connector that acts in series here, with the batteries going up the top. VTX antenna, feels like it could move over a bit. My only reservation with this one, I'm thinking it's going to fly nice because Emax always does some nice things, and I've already seen, having a quick look at their manual online, that aside from PID profile sort of being set specifically for 2S, they've actually set rate profile 1 for thumbers and rate profile 2 for pinchers, which I think is interesting. It's obviously shown that they've done a lot of work on it. No one's going to sort of advertise the fact that they've split it up between thumbers and pinchers if they haven't done some stuff there. My worry was, this is very much an outside quad. The other sort of TinyHawks have been the sort of ducted, very much inside. This is outside. It's an SPI receiver. I was worried about that. But the redeeming feature I think going on there is normally you see these SPI receivers and they've just got this little stub of an antenna. This antenna here goes round the side here. You'll notice there's a proper amount of active element showing there, as well as the normal thing. So hopefully it's going to work out a bit better. We might have to get it away from the props, but yeah, it's an interesting looking quad. It feels pretty sturdy. I think you can fly at 1S as well, but you know, as a purely outside quad, that might be a bit dull. I might just go straight for 2S, I think, because that looks more exciting. It doesn't look that thick, but it's pretty strong, very lightweight. Yeah, let's get it up on Betaflight, let's get it configured, and let's go fly it. So I'm going to have a quick look through Betaflight. I'm not anticipating changing an awful lot because it should be set up pretty much okay, but we'll find out. That's not actually on a flat surface at the moment, so let me just sort this out. Oh yeah, that's better. Anyway, ports wise, not a lot going on. We've got TBS Smart Audio sorted out, which is nice, and looks like we've got a spare UART. Perhaps we can, if we're interested in putting in a proper receiver, we can do so. So on the config page, this is a props in config, D-Shot 600. I'll be adding motor stop because I like that. 8KK loop, SPI RX support, and FreeSky D, which is the same as D8 mode. Although you can obviously change it to FreeSky X, which is the same as D16, and it's got the FreeSky X LBT if you only got LBT available, so that's all good. And it's got air mode permanently on. I don't like that. I'll be turning that off. And the rest is pretty much as we expected. I'll just be double checking I can make the beeper sound, because obviously I'll be flying this outside and it's very small and I don't want to lose it. Battery wise, max cell voltage is 4.4, min cell is 3.2. Might drop that down a little bit because these batteries do tend to drop quite a bit when you put them under any sort of pressure. PID tuning is where I won't be touching it because they've said they've set this up specially, and this is how it is. The only thing I might be messing with is the rate profile, because right now we have a super rate of 0.6 and really quite a large RC Expo, but I might want to push that up. RC Profile 2 is their alleged pincher. They seem to be suggesting that pinchers are more precise and they can handle a lower RC Expo with a higher RC rate. What was the RC rate on Rate Profile 1? So we've got an RC rate of 0.8. I can't really imagine flying with that. Then again, I might want to fly it just for fun as it is, and then I can always use Rate Profile 3. I'll set myself something up here. You see it's pretty much normal at the moment. If I set Rate Profile 3 up with my normal rates, and then I can compare. Because this is set towards a sort of beginner in what it's doing. I mean, this is not that calm, but it's not overly aggressive either. You can see the quad spinning, and you can pretty much guess that the channel map is wrong for me, so I will be changing that. I have gone and bound this. You see we've got movement here. I'll have to add a little bit of deadband because I use a standard profile for all my sort of D8 SPI receivers, and they're all just a little tiny bit out, so we'll sort that out. Modes wise, by default, it's got a relatively decent amount going there. It's just ran the wrong way for me because I happen to have aux 2 set up as my arm switch and aux 1 as my mode switch, but this is pretty much in the order of things I'd have them, so that's quite good. Let's have a quick look at the OSD. That's reasonably friendly. I quite like that. They've basically got the craft name up there, the warning display here. They've got the VTX channel, voltage and timer. I'll be doing a little bit more, especially put my RSSI on there as well, which I like. Anyway, not too much to mess about with. I'll change that now, and then we can go out and give this thing a fly. Hello, excuse me for sitting on a job. It's a long old walk here, and it takes out of you a bit. And I haven't got that much time because I'm operating as the dad taxi while my daughter's on holiday. Out to test the little TinyHawk FreeStyle 2. I'm in a bigger place than maybe I would normally use for it, and I have to be quite careful because I don't want it going down in this long grass, because it's going to have a rather pathetic beeper, and trying to find it in this is going to be a bit of a nightmare. But this does seem to have a bigger antenna for an SPI receiver than normal, so I wanted to test it out. Pretty impressed as well. I was a bit worried when I saw that it didn't have any plate to keep the batteries tight, but I've just put 2 batteries in and tightened the strap, and they're absolutely solid, so that's good. My only worry here, it's a lovely day, but it's a little bit breezy, and I've also forgotten the windsock for the GoPro, so hopefully you can hear me. Not great for a little quad like this, but it's not outrageous, so I think that's okay. We'll do a little line of sight test first because I haven't tried it, and then we'll take it out for a proper fly. Quick hover test, just make sure this is fine. See how it goes. Oh, it takes off nice and easy, feels really smooth. Do a quick circle. Whoop. Quite sensitive on the throttle. Try not to lose it in the trees before I get going.
Seconds. Receiver still
nice and quiet.
connected.
Yeah, this radio is still doing that little alarm, even though it's not an alarm. Let's pop it down there. That's all good. Let's FPV it. Okay, here we go, maiden FPV flight, and this is straight after that line of sight flight, which is why the fly minutes is on sort of 2 minutes something. So kind of ignore that, because we obviously didn't fly it for 2 minutes. We flew it for about 1 minute, and then it sort of sat on the ground for a while. So a few things to say about this. First off, this is using its default rate settings. This is the default rates for thumbers. So it's quite docile. If you sort of put it into a roll, it's quite slow. It gets there in the end, but it's certainly not snappy. However, first impression out of the box here is like, wow, this is smooth. This is not a windless day. This is a tiny little quad, and it's sort of cutting through the air really nicely, and you can see how little throttle I'm having to use here. It's really quite impressive for the size and the weight of this thing. And when Emax talks about getting 4 minutes out of it, it's absolutely true. I put a bunch of different sorts of batteries through it. 4 minutes seemed quite reasonable. The other thing to mention on this one is I'm flying with 200 milliwatts. Normally I'd go out first time and I'd fly with the minimum settings, which is 25 milliwatts. The reason this is at 200 is you had to unlock the VTX to get it to 200 and unlock some of the channels. Obviously, check your area to see if that's legal. I'm not saying it's legal here, but I want to unlock it anyway. And what happens is when it's on the ground and unarmed, it always goes back to 25, which is quite clever. But I hadn't realised I'd left it at 200 because obviously I wanted to check it was working on the bench before I got going with it. So I'll do 25 milliwatts next. But out of the box, first impressions, really smooth, really nice and friendly to people who are beginning. It will let you, go upside down and stuff, but it's not like stupidly fast rolls and things. So I think people who are, done a couple of hours on a sim and are sort of relatively happy to get going with acro are going to be really pleased from the get-go with this one. It's just, there's nothing to do. It's an absolute pleasure to fly. But let's move on, because what I'll do, I'll change my rate profile to profile free, so I've got faster reactions, and I'll knock the VTX down to 25 milliwatts, see how that performs. Okay, so we're in 25 milliwatts now, and we're in rate profile free. I do notice it's not quite as snappy on the rolls as a normal sort of 5-inch quad would be. It's okay, it's just hasn't got that brute power that you would get from obviously a 5-inch or something. And this is, of course, just on 2S, and it's still pretty nippy. It's not super fast, it's not super powerful, but it's nice. It's nice in what it does. That's the only thing I noticed. So super smooth, super controllable, lovely to go into the turns, so silky smooth. But yeah, it hasn't got that full power, so you put full throttle on, it's going to go up, but it's not going to absolutely go up like a rocket ship. But you've got loads of float time. You can do what you like when you're in the air like that. I don't particularly like 25 milliwatts. I do notice that we start to get some breakup fairly quickly. I mean, I'm flying around sort of trees and this, so you'd kind of expect that to a certain extent. But yeah, you don't go too far before you get a bit of breakup. And I'm on rapid fire here, so this is pretty good receiver modules. But yeah, if you're able to do so, I would stick to a higher power VTX, just because it's a no-brainer. You just get a nicer experience from it. Camera-wise, the Runcam Nano 2 is not bad. It's okay. It's certainly functional. You get a little bit of oversaturation, so we see that the grass looks a little bit red in places. It's not brilliant at low light, so I'm noticing when I'm going under the trees that it's a bit hit and miss about what I can see. And certainly as the light level drops, because it's a nice sunny day, when the sun went behind a cloud, I could certainly see the difference. So that's the only thing I'd mention there. Speed wise, as I said, it hasn't got the raw power, but for the scale of this thing, you fly it down low, it really does feel like it rips along quite nicely. At this point, I managed to do this third battery without recording it on the DVR. The old, I pressed the button, I thought it was recording, I'd actually stopped it. So this is flight number 4, and what I'd done previously on the battery that I'd managed not to record is do a little bit of a range test, because what I was noticing, and it was kind of an instant thing, because I've flown a lot of quads with SPI receivers, and literally they all start whinging within about 50 metres about, telemetry low, telemetry critical, telemetry lost. This thing just wasn't doing it. It was holding the signal much better. It's not like it's a full range receiver, but as far as SPI receivers go, this is the best thing I've ever used. And I don't know if it's because the board is different from Emax, or they've put that antenna on, because it makes one hell of a difference. It's like I'm over there where the trees are. It's like a good solid 150 meters without having to worry about it at all, which is really good, because this is perfect as a sort of park flyer or a sort of larger space. Previously, I've been in so much worry that like these little quads were going to go down all the time, literally 30 meters in front of me. This thing is letting me really stretch its legs and go out and fly, so that's really nice. If it literally is just the antenna and that the proper length and the proper active element being out of the way, then I don't know why board creators like Crazy Bee aren't making them, because they are so much better than anything else SPI I've ever used.
battery set number 5 now, and I'm just having such a good time with this because it is just so smooth. It's an absolute pleasure to fly. What I wanted to look at here is to try and show you a demonstration of how the camera looked in the lighting situation. So I tried taking this line through here, which is quite tricky because it's, you know, it's hard to pick out those branches because the contrast isn't great. Like I said, the camera's okay. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either, and you can see I've got through that. However, this direction is the good direction to go. If we turn this around and go the other direction where we've got, basically we're in the shadow, it's a bit trickier, and I'm having to sort of use my memory of, like, there's a branch there somewhere, I think. I keep low to sort that out. So yeah, I mean, when you're going into shadow, it's more of a struggle, and if you're in a bit of a dim day, you'll have to make some allowances for it. But yeah, it's perfectly fine and functional. I do love these smaller quads for just zipping in and out of these plants and things. They become a nice little course. And here's a seagull here to chase. With these smaller quads, actually, I was getting some birds sort of chasing me as suddenly I saw these males appearing when I was flying smaller quads. But you can see here I'm not really worried about my range. I'm going quite a distance for an SPI receiver, and it's all fine. It's all just perfectly good. It's quite amazing. If there's two things about this quad that I really notice, one is how smooth and lovely it is. Two is I'm not really worried. It's like I've got a decent receiver in it. It's absolutely no worry at all. I mean, I wouldn't like to push it beyond you know, when the RSSI falls under 50, because it could crash down further. But solid 100-150 meters for easy. And even messing around going full throttle and stuff, I was still getting 4 minutes out of this thing, even with, you know, eSheen batteries as well as the decent Emax ones. And you can see in this one where this is from battery number 5, where I wasn't doing anything particularly special. I've got 5 minutes out of it, not a problem.
I'm happy. I love this, can you tell? And I'll tell you, one of the reasons is because I get a lot of quads through, and often I'm spending a lot of time sorting out little problems that people designing these, put these together, should have sorted out. And maybe this is the difference. Emax, I'm guessing, actually flies their quads after they put them together, and they think about it and say, oh, well, that's not quite right, let's change that. Perhaps they flew it with a sort of a more standard antenna and said, oh, we don't like the range from there, how can we fix that? We'll put a better antenna on. They flew it, and maybe they had a thumber and a pincher and said, oh, this is not quite right for me, let's change the rates around. Basically going through that iteration of testing it out and seeing what's good, and eventually you end up with a really great product, and you just get out of the box, you put the props on a fly, and it's brilliant. I wish everybody would take a lesson and do a little bit more. You can put the best components together you like. If you don't test fly it and refine your design, then it could still fly like a dog. This doesn't. This flies beautifully. It's such a lovely quad. Emax can seemingly do no wrong as far as all the ones I've had from them. They've been absolutely brilliant. I would say this is, I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. I would class myself as an experienced pilot. I've flown a lot of quads. I would still take this out and fly it. It's such a pleasure to fly. The only thing it lacked over, let's say, like a toothpick with a 3S or 4S battery is that raw power. So if you really wanted to like go up really high like a rocket or go really, really fast, this doesn't do it. But you can get, if you are just cruising around, you can get 5-6 minutes out of those two 1S batteries. It's just ridiculous how efficient this is. And I had an absolute blast. I think in a sort of tight environment round, as you saw, the sort of big sort of plants, those were my sort of weaving thing, going around trees, that sort of stuff, absolute pleasure. But if you're a beginner and this is your first quad, this would make a great first quad, because it is a nice easy introduction to acro flying. The rates it comes with are quite reasonable. It's not going to run away from you, but it's not super docile either. It's a nice in the middle, and you can whack those rates up and you can get faster flying and more impressive stuff, and you can learn all your tricks on it. The other thing is, of course, it's really light and quite inconspicuous. You can fly it in any sort of area, and this SPI receiver, it actually works. That is the good thing. Brilliant range out of it. Can't recommend it highly enough, really can't. Very, very good. Are there any nitpicks? There always are, and I've got a couple. I would say this is a little bit unprotected, that antenna. I don't know, maybe I've clonked it and taken a bit off the end, who can tell? I mean, they've protected the VTX antenna, and this is literally just what I would do to get an antenna out of the way. This is a zip tie with a bit of heat shrink over it. I'm surprised they didn't do the same here. I mean, it feels like it's not going to go, but all it has to do is go up like that, and you could lose a bit of the end. So that's one thing. The other thing is transporting it like this. In this case, as soon as you put the props on, it doesn't work. I mean, you could take the props off, but it's like 8 screws every time. You don't want to be doing that at the field. It would be nicer to have a bigger case, that's all. And then you could just put it in a case, you could chuck it in a bag and not think about it because it'd be protected. As it is with the props on, you have to sort of take care of it and make sure it's all okay and stuff. But that's it. Other than that, it flew beautifully. The batteries are inexpensive. I got a whole bunch and put loads through it, and you get a decent flight time, and it's just all good. Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant quad. Brilliant. I love it. This makes up for all the duffers I keep getting to review. Anyway, this has been the Emax TinyHawk II FreeStyle and was kindly supplied for review by Banggood, so thanks very much for them. And of course you can find links down below for where you can check it out in more detail. Hope that review's been helpful. I've certainly enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.